Welcome to Online Business Education with your host, Bob Caspi. This module examines how to build and manage a B2B sales team. Often, companies that have been successful up to a point attempt to build a sales organization but has difficulty getting them to be successful. The CEO often is thinking that he or she has depleted their own network at this point and that they are tired of spending their time on the road selling. It seems likely that since the company has grown this far, a professional sales team should be easy to integrate, and frankly, they just wanted to play more golf, occasionally schmoozing with their key clients. So they hire a new sales team, but a company's initial attempt at building a sales team often fails. The reasons are many. First, the early sales were all relationship-based. The brand equity was not that of the company, but rather of the founder. Second, the sales process itself was not well defined, and the targeting was also poorly understood. Finally, the CEO has power that the sales team does not, and could change the product or make promises that salespeople cannot do. The CEO is often talented in a number of disciplines and is able to be much more creative during the sales process. Fixing this requires creating a clear marketing process that begins by targeting customers that are more likely to close. Next, the company needs to establish what is the leading value and whether that value is clearly differentiable with the competition. Often this is not the case, and the early sales were more relationship-based than value-based. However, I found that after several years of successfully serving clients who were convinced to buy by the CEO, the company has usually figured out what important product modifications must be made to keep the customer satisfied. And the CEO doesn't even necessarily note the product advancement and definitely doesn't improve the selling process to include a statement about the most advanced features. It remains about the CEO's network and their relationships. So there's plenty of good news in the product features, and the company simply needs to go back and understand how good their current product really is in comparison with the competition. Third, the sales process must create a path to minimize the customer's perceived risk of dealing with a new vendor. One can no longer simply rely upon their relationship and trust in the CEO. Fourth, the tools must be created to deliver the value and risk messages effectively and efficiently. And even with these improvements, the CEO will likely still be required to go out on the road with early sales until the process is perfected. Once a process is started, next there are two reports that are critical to monitoring and improving the sales process. These are the pipeline or funnel report and the lost order report. A formalized sales pipeline is part of creating a standardized selling process. The pipeline breaks down the sales process into small, manageable steps. For example, the first step could be an unsolicited lead, followed by a brief telephone screening, which would then lead to a customer visit, during which, for example, a demonstration might be given. Testimonials, meetings with management, the delivery of a proposal, and closing are all steps that can be taken in an orderly manner. And a report that shows the total number of customers at each stage for each salesperson can be critical to understanding where roadblocks are and where failures are occurring and how salespeople are performing on a comparative basis. The report leads to actions that can be taken to remedy specific problems. For example, why is a particular salesperson losing a higher percentage of clients after the demo? Or why has the number of leads dropped this week? These problems point to specific parts of the process that can be investigated and modified. In general, one can also create an overall plan to reduce the customer acquisition cost by examining the stages that result in the maximum dropout of clients, and also examining the stages that cost the most to perform. Here's an example of a pipeline report. Note that the numbers get smaller as one goes down the funnel because clients tend to fall away. Columns should be kept for as many weeks as possible so that one can examine long-term trends. As well, individual reports for individual salespeople and products give the company the ability to focus down to where profitability can be improved. The second report is the lost order report. If you never understand why customers choose not to purchase your product, you can never fix it. You must have the discipline to force salespeople to engage with customers who have chosen not to go forward and to interview them to see what the customer's reasoning was. Then, on a weekly basis, these lost order reports can be discussed by management together with the sales team to see if there are changes to the product, the literature, or the process that can help remedy the situation. Keep in mind that cognitive dissonance may make it difficult or impossible to change a client's mind once they've decided. But that's not the point of the lost order report. It is to understand the process better so that it can be improved. There are several metrics that can be used to help manage a campaign. These are discussed in greater detail in the marketing modules. But they include the media ratio, which compares the money spent on media to the sales generated by it, the closing cost, or the cost of labor and materials in moving the lead through the sales process, the closing ratio, which compares the closed number of sales to the total initial number of leads, the lead cost, which looks at the cost per generated lead, and most importantly, the total customer acquisition cost, which is key to understanding whether you can achieve profitability. This is the most important number for you to know about your business. It, in combination with your COGS, your cost of goods sold, in total define whether you can have a profitable process and business. Note that it does not consider your overhead expenses, which may be a higher percentage of revenue when you're smaller. In general, we must consider the marketing and sales processes as if they were machines that can be constantly improved. Companies develop the discipline of constantly experimenting with marketing and sales processes. Typically, 15% of the marketing and sales budget can be reserved for experimentation. The company uses the best-known process for 85% of their business, and once the experimental portion proves better, it then becomes the 85% methodology, and new experiments are started looking to beat the new best method. My experience is that salespeople always act in a way to maximize their own personal income. James Buchanan, an American economist, won a Nobel Prize on the theory that people act in their own self-interest. So when you create a compensation plan for your sales team, you must align their compensation with your goals. For example, if getting new clients is the most important objective, then give a bonus for every new client. If getting paid is the responsibility of the sales organization, then don't pay the commission until you get paid. The timing of payment is also critical. If you accumulate bonuses and pay them later, and they are forfeited if a salesperson leaves, then you provide the salesperson motivation to stay. As well, ownership options in the company can also be used to provide long-term motivation. Good salespeople are highly competitive. As cheesy as it might sound, they are motivated by plaques and public praise. Use those tools available to you to motivate your team. In general, when hiring anyone for your firm, start by writing a specification for that position. What are you asking them to do? How much travel is required? What kind of experience do you expect? What kind of skills are needed? Try to get a minimum of 3 applicants for each position, and modify your specifications based on the interviews with the applicants. Much like the CEO, each salesperson will have their own brand equity in their own network, even if they are currently selling a competitive product. Hire people who have strong reputations as honest brokers and hard workers with your potential clients. Do not worry if they were selling against you. That's their problem and they will handle it. My experience is that good salespeople can sell anything. It isn't about their technical knowledge. In fact, technical knowledge can get in the way. You don't want them engaging into deep technical discussions with customers. You want them to serve as a bridge between your more technical employees and the customer. You must give a salesperson the authority along with the responsibility to manage an account. You cannot step into a meeting and take over an account. In fact, you want plausible deniability. Allow the salesperson the ability to say to the customer that I just can't get you that, or I don't have the power to do it. If you make a promise, then the company is committed. If a salesperson makes a promise, then you can always override it and send them back to the customer. Providing your salespeople with qualified leads and with marketing literature that clearly states the value and reduces the risk is the best thing that you can do for them. Beyond that, allow a team of salespeople to collaborate and solve their own problems collectively. Require that they have a weekly meeting between all of the salespeople to discuss wins, losses, and challenging accounts. Attend the meeting as an observer and offer help only when asked and if needed. Have the sales team manage the metric reports and share them with you weekly. They need to own the process. Some companies were known to mechanically fire their poorest performing salesperson each year, attempting then to constantly move the average up. Frankly, it's hard to do, but I tend to agree that it's the right idea. So go close some sales. Thank you.